Hey, folks, I'm glad that you joined us. This is Phantoms and Monsters Radio, where the veil lifts one story at a time. Now, if you're new here, welcome. Now, tonight we'll be diving into a new series of reports that just literally crossed my desk in the past couple of weeks. These encounters are so strange, they blur the line between folklore and lived reality, actually. From phantom legions on Colorado fields to spectral horses in Illinois and unsettling entities closer to home. These reports refuse to be dismissed as imagination. Now, are they echoes from history, cryptids we've not yet to name, or something interdimensional moving in or out of our world? Stay with me because these are fresh accounts you haven't heard anywhere else. So let's go ahead and let's begin. Now, in the shadow of Colorado's San Luis Valley, long whispered for UFOs, ghosts, and animal mutilations, two young brothers witnessed something that defied history itself. Now, on quiet spring nights, an entire phantom legion of staff-bearing figures and ghostly conquistadors on horseback would materialize from the fields, marching north before vanishing into the trees, leaving behind only questions about who or what they were. So this first account, the witness states, I partially grew up in the San Luis Valley, located in south central part of Colorado during the 1960s. The event took place on April 30th, 1964. Now, this valley is situated on a large aquifer with artesian water and is filled with stories about ghost UFO sightings and animal mutilations. So our family was too large to fit into the house on the property. So my younger brother and I slept in an old two-story tool barn a few miles outside of our small town for a couple of years. Now, the barn itself contained a tool room and 3 storage areas, and upstairs was filled with belongings from 3 or 4 generations, along with plenty of mice. We had bedrooms in 2 of the lower floors, barely large enough for a bed and our preteen belongings. Now, the slatted wooden walls allowed us to see outside, so we could quickly identify the source of any noise we heard day or night. Now, on hot summer nights, we would hear various sounds, sometimes knowing what to expect before we looked, although we rarely discussed it. Now, one of our walls faced a 140-acre field that was planted with different crops each year and was generally flat until the crops matured. Now, in late May, for a few days, we would hear the sounds of metal clanging, horses blowing through their nostrils, and murmuring from about 100 yards away. Sometimes these sounds would wake us up. Other times, we would be chatting with each other as we tried to fall asleep. Curious, we would get out of our beds and approach the wall facing the field, always expecting to see the same sight. We would witness phantom like beings marching in a legion. First, we saw figures walking with staffs and flags that waved in the breeze, followed by several ghostly images on horseback, about 6 to 8 horses. We could see the reins in the horses' legs, sometimes dressed with saddles. Next, we saw a group of 30 or more ghosts outfitted with odd helmets, swords, and muskets, dressed in the attire of conquistadors. Now, the low sounds of marching, the rhythmic up and down motion of walking, combined with the fact that we couldn't see their legs below the knees, created an unreal sight for two young boys about to leave grade school. These figures always marched across the field from south to north before fading into the tree line along the creek at the edge of our field. Towards the end of my brother's life, he remembered these experiences vividly and often discussed a few times we had seen them, recalling them just as I do. Now, this next account, in late August 2025, a young boy from Lexington, Kentucky awoke from a vivid nightmare to which he described little gray men with huge black eyes, long stick-like fingers, and a glowing silver craft that whisked him to the moon. Was this simply a child's dream or an uncanny echo of a classic alien abduction account reported for decades? So the witness tells me, "Hello, sir. My son came to me early in the morning in late August 2025, just a couple months ago, visibly crying and scared. We live near Lexington, Kentucky, and he rarely shares his dreams with me. However, on this particular morning, his distress made me take him seriously. He told me that in his dream, he woke up to find little gray men who took him out the door and onto their craft. He described these gray men as having big black eyes. When I asked about their noses, he demonstrated by pushing his own nose up on his face, suggesting that they had tiny ones with just nostrils. He also described their fingers as long and stick-like. He said the ship was silver with yellow, green, and white lights resembling a ball with a ring around it. He recounted being taken to the moon. The gray men were whispering, and he remembered them saying, 'Stay, stay with us.' He kept repeating this phrase. Feeling frightened, he told them to take him home to mommy. While I know children can be influenced by television and other media, I'm nearly 100% certain that he hadn't seen any show that provided the detailed account of an abduction. Ever since he came to me with this story, I have been searching everything I can about kidnapping, and his account remarkably resembles some alleged experiences. He is a truthful child who had just turned 5, and I can always rely on him to tell me the truth. His account sounded completely authentic. While it could have been just a dream, I realized that many people remember dreams in profound ways. I have never heard him recount a dream with such vivid detail before, so I feel it's necessary to report this. Now, if anything else happens, I will definitely report again. Thank you for taking the time to read my account. I want to thank Mortal Clown for her donation. Very much appreciated. Now, in this next account, when a proud new farmhouse owner in rural America began losing livestock and finding strange animal skin cloaks on his property, he never imagined the terrifying pattern that would emerge. As mutilated calves, vanishing rabbits, and blood-curdling howls grew closer to his family, he was forced to confront the unthinkable. Could a real-life Wendigo be prowling his land? Now, I received this report from my colleagues, Cal and Cam, over Expanded Perspectives. Now, the witness states, I bought the land a couple of years ago from an older man who had lived there since the 1950s. It was pretty pricey, but a good deal nonetheless. I had nice acreage, a decent barn, and a small farmhouse that could use some work. Overall, it was a good investment. Now, right after I signed the papers, the old man mentioned something about making sure that there were cows on the property. I didn't pay much attention at the time. I was just proud to have bought my first farmhouse. Now, looking back, I realized I should have listened to him because a couple months later, when he moved into an assisted living facility, he passed away. The first year was fine. The cattle were nice and fattened by winter. We probably shouldn't have fixed the porch though. The awning above it broke due to the sheer weight of the snow. We painted the barn a vibrant red and white, classic colors. The event that sparked it all was when we took a walk on the property one autumn and discovered a tattered cloak made from various animal skins, including those of coyotes and deer. I thought it might have been a project of the old man, so we took it home and tossed it in the barn. The fur looked nice, and I thought it might be something that we could do with do something with it. In hindsight, I probably should have done that. I shouldn't have done that. A few weeks later, the cows were fine, but one or two calves went missing. Thank Kurt for your donation. Much appreciated. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just coyotes. My children raised rabbits for fur sometimes, and I had experience with animals. But that's when the rabbits started disappearing. Now, at first, there were just two rabbits, then four, and eventually none were left. They vanished as if they had escaped their cages, but I thought they had. My children were, of course, sad because these rabbits were their favorites. Each time one disappeared, I'd set up a couple of traps, but every single time they remained untouched. At this point, I thought it might be a clever coyote, so I decided to go hunting. Flick Furt, thank you for your donation. Much appreciated. I grabbed a 22 rifle. I'm not particularly fond of guns, but I knew we needed to have one, and I took a flashlight with me. I began walking, listening for any sounds, but all I heard were the hoots of an owl or two. Eventually, I walked back home. Upon my return, I noticed fresh scratches on the tree in the yard, higher than I could reach. This was the same tree my kids loved to climb, and that's when I got serious. At first, I thought it might be a bear, but I quickly dismissed that notion when I heard a howl behind me. It could be a cougar, I thought. So I set up some trail cameras around the property. However, every single time I did, they were smashed. Most of them still had intact SD cards, but nothing appeared on the screen. They were just damaged. By now, it was around the end of November, and the following week we had lost two cows. They were both pregnant and looked almost mutilated. The only thing missing was the calves inside. I thought it might be a cougar, but after researching cougar behavior, it seemed unlikely. Something about it was just different. It looked as if the animals had been torn apart, but pieces could almost be pieced back together, except for the calves, of course. Now, as winter set in with snow covering everything, I felt like I was grasping at straws, searching for something to blame for the animal deaths. One night, unable to sleep, I looked up animal disappearances and cow mutilations, and strangely, I stumbled upon theories about aliens. While I believe in extraterrestrial life, the idea seemed utterly ridiculous to me. That same night, my eldest son, around 13, came down the stairs shaking in fear. He said there was something outside looking at him. I immediately got up and looked out the window. Now, at first, I didn't see anything, but as my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw it, a deer, but it looked just wrong. The only thing I could think of was a wendigo. I was aware of Wendigos, but I never really believed in them. I thought they were just some part of Native American folklore like Paul Bunyan or John Henry. But there it was, a creature with black skin, the body of a deer, and oddly had no horns. My son and I stared at it for quite some time, its hollow eyes staring back at us. Then it turned and walked away. As it disappeared from view, I heard a howl, a blood curdling scream that sounded almost like my son. I haven't seen the creature much since then, but signs of its presence are all around. Missing calves, more missing rabbits. I managed to acquire a few from a friend. Scratch marks on fence posts and howls at night that sound like my family members or friends. I've taken some photos of the Wendigo on my phone, but they aren't very clear. Now, as spring approached, it was the selling season since our calves were typically weaned during that time, and I began to see the Wendigo more frequently. I will do anything to keep the family safe and the farm safe. Now, do me a quick favor. Tap the like button so more experiencers can find me. Please subscribe and consider using the super chat and super thanks or PayPal buy me a coffee links in the description. And present your questions in all caps, so we do focus question and answer near the end. Now I see my camera went out, and I've been having a problem with the camera tonight. I don't know what's going on. I hope you can still hear me. Hopefully it'll come back. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, this next account, when a young girl in rural Massachusetts saw a red-faced horned figure emerge from the shadows of her family's basement, it left an impression that still haunts her 15 years later. Was this a demonic entity, a misinterpreted human presence, or something stranger still lurking beneath her home? She says, I live in a small town near Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and my home is lovely, situated in the woods, but a big yard and an in-ground pool. When I was 10 years old, my dad passed away unexpectedly, which was a difficult time for my mom and me. However, we had a fantastic family that supported us. One summer, when I was around 11 years old, I was swimming in our pool while everyone else was away. My mom was at work and the doors were always locked. Now, after a while, I decided to get out of the pool and change in our basement, where we had a changing room. Now, the cellar was typical. It had boiler, furnace, washer, dryer, and old boxes. And as I was walking to the stairs, as I was walking to the stairs to go back upstairs, I felt something unusual and noticed a movement out of the corner of my eye. I immediately got goosebumps and turned my head to look. In the corner, I saw a figure that began to walk towards me. As it got closer, I could see its red face and horns sticking out from its head. In a panic, I screamed, ran out up the stairs, slammed the basement door shut, and rushed outside. I waited anxiously for my mom to come home from work. She could tell I was scared about something, so I told her what had happened. We went back inside and downstairs, but there was nothing there except my wet towel. I don't know who or what the figure was, but 15 years later, I still feel an eerie sensation when I'm in the basement sometimes. Maybe it was just my imagination, but I definitely saw something that day. Now, I received this report from a now 26-year-old female witness. Now, the experience has stayed with her for more than a decade and a half, leaving her with lingering unease whenever she's in that basement. The description was a red-skinned, horned humanoid, aligns with archetypes of demonic apparitions in folklore, but could only reflect several other possibilities. Residual or manifest spirit, the event may have been a haunting tied to the past trauma, such as the loss of her father or the land itself. Could have been a shadow person, horned entity archetype. Numerous reports of horned and red-faced beings have been documented in sleep paralysis or high strangeness cases, suggesting a psychological or interdimensional component. Cultural memory or fear projection. Her subconscious grief or heightened emotional state could have generated a vivid hallucination or waking nightmare moment. Could have been a cryptid or ultra-terrestrial encounter. Some cases of humanoid sightings in basements or confined spaces point to interdimensional visitors rather than classic demons. Now, what makes her account notable is the consistency of detail after so many years and the lack of obvious triggers and physical context like locked doors or no one else home. Now, whether this was an external presence or an extraordinary inner experience, it adds to the growing number of reports describing horned or red faced beings in modern settings, like especially in basements, attics, or liminal domestic spaces. So, what are your thoughts? Could have been a demon? Who knows? Yep, the camera's gone. I don't know. Yeah. It's still got power on there, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we're going to keep going with the audio. What begins as a routine call about a possible trespasser quickly spirals into one of the strangest mysteries ever reported from a U.S. state park. When two rangers found and then destroyed a massive woven shelter deep in the woods, they never expected it to reappear, fully rebuilt less than 24 hours later, leaving behind more questions than answers. Now, again, this report came from Cal and Cam over Expanded Perspectives. Hey guys, I have to be a little vague in this story, and please don't use my name and email. Just call me Ranger Rick. My boss told me a couple years ago that when this incident occurred, he didn't want people to know about the location. So we couldn't specify or specifically specify exactly where it took place. Since he no longer works at the part, I figured now I could share a vague version of the story. I know at least one coworker who listens to your show, so hopefully they will be cool with it. Now, while working at a state park, one of my less enjoyable duties was manning the non-emergency phone line. The calls varied from people reporting trash on the trail or needing advice to avoid getting lost, to occasionally receiving reports about a suspected homeless person camping in a restricted area or a hunter on conservation land. That's how this call started, but it didn't end there. Now, this call came from a private landowner whose house bordered park property. It was an area miles away from the public trails. Not even your worst lost hiker would end up there. They reported hearing strange noises in the wood behind their home, and the husband claimed to have seen a figure walking in the woods from his back deck. He estimated the figure was walking into the park property. They had reported that hunters had used this land in the past and suspected that this might have been the case again. Now, one strange piece of information they provided was that they never saw a flashlight or a campfire. Now, when I had some free time that day, I asked a fellow ranger, Ranger Roy, to join me in looking around the woods behind the property. He figured it would be a typical scenario, finding a trail cam and report it, or unfortunately encounter a homeless man's encampment. We started walking into the woods on the park's property. Now, after about 10 minutes of hiking, we hadn't noticed any signs of human activity. No trail cameras, no corn piles, no fresh trash or beer cans. Just as we were about to head back, Roy saw it, a large structure made out of branches. Now, I teach wilderness survival. I've taught how to make lean-tos, A-frames, and even cabins. But this was unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was 3 domes connected by small tunnels. The strangest part of its construction was that no string or anything else was tying it together. It was woven from sticks and branches. Initially, we weren't creeped out. We were just impressed. That changed when we started looking around inside and noticed there were no signs of human activity at all. No trash, no food, no handmade sleeping bags or any other product, just a bed made of branches and leaves. The next part may upset your listeners, but when we called the park manager to report what we had found, he ordered us to destroy it. We spent time tearing the whole thing down, and both Roy and I were upset about it. We even joked about using it as a campsite. I'm glad we didn't because the next part is what shook my beliefs. Now, the following day, we were sharing our story with everyone, and I, wanting to impress a female coworker, decided to take her on a hike in the area. We drove the Polaris to the property and hiked to where the structure used to be, only to find that it was no longer gone. It had somehow been rebuilt in less than 18 hours. This freaked me out. We quickly got out of there, and the part that could get me in a bit of trouble was that we didn't tell anyway it had been rebuilt. Was it a Bigfoot? Could have been. Now, in this next account, what began as a casual randonautica adventure to manifest money in Belvedere, Illinois, quickly turned into a chilling encounter with two towering black horse-like beings that appeared from nowhere and sprinted silently at impossible speeds. Were these spectral steeds tied to Native American legend or something far stranger that was awaiting in the forgotten liminal space? The date was this year, September 28th of 2025, just a couple of weeks ago. Now, the witness tells me I was feeling bored early today and decided to use Randonautica for the first time. I intended to search for a large sum of money. Now, the app directed me to a vast, desolate field bordering my local farm in Fleet. A 12-foot barbed wire fence surrounded this area, but it had a gravel access road run north to south along its far western end. The road was only blocked by a chain and lacked any signage, so I decided to venture in, walking my dog under the chain and down the road. Now, my intended destination was about 500 meters up the road and then off to the right into a dead field itself. As I approached and about 20 meters away, I'm using meters because that's how Randonautica calculates distances. I was looking toward the designated spot when two massive entities suddenly appeared out of thin air right at the location. I froze, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. Now, up to that point, I had feared that the landowner might catch me and chase me off. So my immediate concern was that this was the landowner and his son coming after me on large black horses. However, that wasn't the case. They resembled horses, but they were far too large. They were completely black and featureless. I couldn't even tell if they had faces. They moved impossibly fast and made no sound whatsoever, not even a vibration in the ground, nothing. They appeared in the field ahead of me to my right and began sprinting towards the gravel road I was walking on. Their speed seemed to be 20 mile an hour or more, and they moved seamlessly, maintaining a distance of approximately 10 feet apart. They crossed the road and disappeared straight into the dense trees, still completely silent. It felt impossible. Their legs moved like those of animals, but it was as if they were gliding. They were only about 150 feet ahead of me, so I had a clear view of them in the full sunlight at around 6 p.m. Nothing obstructed my sight. If I had to estimate their size, I would say they were at least 10 feet at the shoulder, nearly the same length as a full-size pickup truck. If they were physical entities, they would have had to weigh thousands of pounds. Yet, there was no vibration, no sound, nothing at all. It felt as if I was in a pocket where sound would not reach me, surrounded by an eerie, empty silence. Despite the temperature being in the 80s, I felt very cold. I should note that it was just before they appeared, the wind completely stopped. The cicadas suddenly erupted with noises all around me, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. I experienced a strange sensation reminiscent of a previous unexplainable sighting I had about 2 years ago, as if something was conveying to me, "This is only for you." Once the entities were gone and I was able to move again, I was left immediately almost terrified. I was overwhelmed by the feeling that some unknowable intelligence was present and somehow enjoying my fear and confusion. I fully intend to return to the site within the week to document everything, so I'll provide updates if there's any develops. Now, the witness did provide additional information. He tells me, now, after returning home and attempting to process what I had witnessed, I decided to search online for any local reports or sightings that matched my experience. And to my surprise, I discovered a considerable history of local urban legends and Native American folklore that perfectly aligned with what I encountered. And I assure you, I had no prior knowledge of these stories. There are tales of massive spectral black horses encountered in pairs, sometimes accompanied by one headless rider with an empty second steed. There may have been a rider on one of them, but I can't be sure. Now, one of the horses had something tall and white on its lower back, but it remained rigid and upright the entire time, which contributed to the initial fear of being charged by the landowner. Upon further investigation, I discovered that the land is entirely unused and owned by a development company. Additionally, these horse-like entities literally materialized in front of me in a wide open field, making no noise whatsoever. The land has remained unused throughout recorded history in Belvedere and is completely secluded from its surroundings, solidifying its status as an actual liminal space. Apparently, Randonautica had a knack for finding such places, which I had no idea about when I chose to use the app on a whim, initially seeking stranded money. Now, I note that the witness experienced chills and deep sense of being singled out by an unseen intelligence, despite the warm weather. Now, later research revealed that local folklore speaks of spectral black horses and headless riders haunting the region, aligning eerily with the encounter. The land itself has remained historically unused and isolated, reinforcing its reputation as a liminal, otherworldly place. Now, I have talked to people who have used Randonautica in the past. In fact, a friend of mine a couple of years ago ran across a strange area where he was using the Randonautica app, and there was a lot of paranormal activity that accompanied his trek that day. So it does happen. Now, is it something to do with the app itself? Is it just random, or is it really something associated that has supernatural or paranormal aspects to it? I don't know, but it's interesting that I did receive this account. It kind of matched up a lot with what my friend had experienced. Now, this next account in 2010, a late night drive through the small town of Winnebago, Minnesota, turned into a surreal encounter with a towering owl man and a sentient green orb that seemed to defy the law of physics. But as lost hours, an impossible pregnancy, and UFO contact began to unfold in the following years, the witness was left to wonder, had she seen a messenger from another world or something even stranger? So she tells me, on September 30th, 2010, in Winnebago, Minnesota, in a quiet town of 1,200 residents, where autumn leaves were beginning a transformation, I was driving home from my evening shift at Parker Oates Nursing Home when something massive and otherworldly caught my peripheral vision in the shadowy branches of an old tree. Compelled to look, I turned my head, and when I snapped my attention back to the road ahead, there it was. Illuminated in the stark beam of headlights stood an impossible figure, the Owlman. Towering 5 foot tall, this creature had a hauntingly human-like body crowned with enormous owl face. What struck me most were its arms, human-like in structure with forearms and biceps, yet covered in feathers and without hands visible at all. They were wings connected directly to the human-like arms, forming one continuous structure. The feathers were white on the underbelly and brown on top, just like a regular owl, but underlying arm structure was distinctly human. The feet were unmistakably owl-like, and the body maintained an eerily human quality that made the whole encounter surreal. However, it was the eyes that held me captive, large like an owl's, yet unmistakably human in their intelligence. Their brown depths caught the yellow reflection of my headlight, resembling the mesmerizing eyes of animals that reflect in the dark, not luminous, but mirror bright and utterly hypnotic. I slammed my brakes, coming within 4 foot of this enigmatic being. The moment I hit the brakes, it screeched, a sound that defied explanation, simultaneously avian and human, primal yet conscious, and spread its wings wide in response, like human-like arms extending into magnificent wingspans. The whole scene wasn't frightening. It was profoundly weird, like stepping into the reality that operated by entirely different rules. Then came the moment that changed everything. It simply stared at me with those penetrating reflective eyes, and I found myself locked in an otherworldly communion, gazing into those ancient depths as time seemed to suspend itself around us. In that electric silence, I felt rather than heard the words, "I see you," resonate through my very soul. I wasn't afraid. Fear couldn't touch this moment. I was frozen in pure wonder, caught in a trance-like state until something shifted and I became unfrozen, looking away for just a heartbeat. When I turned back, it had vanished as if it had never existed, though I glimpsed something impossible, small and swift, disappear into the darkness above, moving with a speed that defied physics. Strangely calm, I continued on Highway 169, maintaining 50-mile-an-hour home when a new impossibility emerged. A perfect sphere of green fire, tennis ball size and blazing like a living butane flame, appeared outside my passenger window and began keeping pace at my speeding vehicle with supernatural precision. This ethereal orb danced with fluorescent green flames that flickered and moved like a liquid light. The more I became aware of its presence, the more it seemed to respond to me, eventually tapering away and descending toward the silent cow farm as if it knew I was watching. When I finally reached home, my babysitter was furious. I was 2 hours late, though the drive should have taken 15 minutes at most. I had no memory of where this lost hours had gone, so awareness that time had slipped away like water through my fingers. The next day, I returned to search for the burn marks at the cow's farm where the green orb had descended. Nothing remained, no trace of its fiery presence, as if it had nothing more than a beautiful hallucination. But the strangest was only beginning. I discovered I was pregnant despite my boyfriend being incarcerated, an impossible conception that remains unexplained to this day, followed by an equally mysterious miscarriage where the baby vanished completely without requiring any medical intervention, leaving doctors baffled and unable to provide any rational explanation. Then a decade later, during another extraordinary UFO encounter, I met a baby who communicated telepathically that it was the child from that night, the hybrid offspring of that impossible pregnancy. Suddenly, and some of the puzzle pieces of my life began clicking into place with supernatural precision. This wasn't the malevolent Cornish owlman of the 1976 legend with glowing red eyes and sinister presence. This being was entirely different, one of profound intelligence and purpose. It looked at me with stern recognition, communicating not through the words, but through the very essence of sight itself. Its gaze penetrated straight to my soul with the message as clear as it was mysterious. I see you. That encounter marked the beginning of my awakening, the first conscious thread in the tapestry of experience that continued to unfold. The puzzle pieces were still coming together to this day and revealing connections and synchronicities that span years and defy conventional understanding, all stemming from that impossible September night when I looked into the eyes of something beyond our world. Now, this next account, what the family dog chased that summer evening in 2011 wasn't a fox, a raccoon, or other animal familiar in the Illinois woods. Standing just 3 feet tall with gremlin-like features and oversized ears, the creature sprinted into the tree line, leaving 2 young witnesses with a mystery that would haunt them for more than a decade. So the witness tells me, "Dear Mr. Strickler, I'm a lifelong resident of North Barrington, Illinois, and an experienced outdoorsman. I'm reaching out to share a rare cryptid sighting I personally experienced as a child, which I believe may be of interest in your research." Now, this was the summer of 2011. The witness, JS, was 11 at the time. His sister was 2 years younger, and they were on their family property near the Fox River in North Barrington, Illinois. In fact, I know the area pretty well because we had a couple of sightings of winged humanoids in the area as well. And I did talk to the witness about this. Now, the description of the sighting was, while playing outside, our family dog chased a creature through the yard and into the woods. The humanoid was bipedal, approximately 3 foot tall, gremlin like in appearance with large ears, ugly, extremely fast, and unlike any known life form. We observed the creature running for about 150 feet until it reached the tree line, giving us a clear, prolonged view. Both my sister and I vividly recalled the encounter, which remains unexplained to this day. Discovery of the word pukwudgie. Now, in 2023, while working as a pawnbroker in Ames, Iowa, a regular customer described the creature he had seen using the term pukwudgie. His description matched exactly what I saw as a child, prompting me to research the folklore and confirm that this is likely what we encountered. Now, I am an experienced outdoorsman with interest in hunting, fishing, boating, and metal detecting, and I'm a former Boy Scout. I have spent thousands of hours observing wildlife and nature, which has given me confidence in what we saw was not a known animal, whether healthy or not. Now, my sister independently corroborates the sighting. The area has significant Native American history, including burial grounds and artifacts along the Fox River. Now, folklore suggests pukwudgies may act as guardians of burial grounds, which aligns with our location. Now, while traditionally reported in the East Coast, this sighting suggests the Great Lakes region may also host them. Now, this is a singular, vivid, and unexplained encounter. Neither witness has seen anything like it again. Now, the creature's appearance and behavior were beyond bizarre and can't be explained by conventional biology. And I'm confident in the veracity of this account. And I'm willing to answer any follow-up questions, provide additional details, or even take a lie detector test if needed to verify my honesty. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. I hope this information may be helpful in your research. JS. Now, I got on the phone as soon as I could with this witness, and after speaking to JS personally, I noted that the North Barrington region has a history of unusual cryptid sighting and unexplained phenomena. This includes reports of winged humanoids that fit into the broader wave of the encounters of the Chicagoland area. The possibility that different cryptid forms overlap in these areas make the report particularly valuable. Now, for JS and his sister, the encounter was singular, a vivid brush with an unknown that has never repeated itself. For researchers, a growing body of evidence suggests that pukwudgie-like beings may not be confined to New England, but could also be found in the Great Lakes region. Now, what did the children truly see that day? A guardian spirit of the old burial grounds? A flesh and blood cryptid? Or something in between? The mystery remains unknown. So we're going to go ahead and end it there. Now, if you have questions, please use all caps in the chat. And even though you can't see me, I'm hoping you can still hear me. So I will see what comes up on the chat. I think Kevin can get to me on this. If you got questions, go ahead and put them up in all caps, and I'll try to answer them for you. Any questions? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Dagnabbit. Northern Alabama has a creature called the Sipsey creature, half Bigfoot, half cat. Okay. Well, I have a team in central and northern Alabama. I've never heard of that cryptid, but we do have it, Dogman and cryptid canine, as well as a lot of Bigfoot activity there. So we've actually been investigating areas as far north as Huntsville, down into halfway between Birmingham and Montgomery. So we have been checking out the area for about 4 or 5 years now. We have some evidence. We don't know what we're dealing with, but it certainly seems like at least we've got cryptid canines and Bigfoot in the same area. Hopefully, we're going to get something tangent that we can actually present to prove that what we believe is there actually is there. Any other questions, folks? Now, what's interesting about the case with the hybrid and the woman losing her pregnancy, and I've gone through that before with witnesses. That's not a new event. That has happened with 2 witnesses or 2 experiences I've dealt with in the past. It does happen. In fact, the one experiencer, it happened to her 4 times. She would become pregnant, and after the first trimester, the child just simply disappeared. So it does happen. Jose Sanchez, are there other countries beside the U.S. where cryptids are often reported or seen? I've heard that Mexico and UK are hotspots. We get reports worldwide. I mean, it's just because of distance and communication, where it's hard to get contact with everything that's seen. You know, we do get a lot of sightings down South America in particular, and I'm lucky enough to have a few people who have been able to send me reports. But sure, UK and Mexico do have some different sightings. I mean, of course, Mexico, I reported again from an old report of the flying witches from back in it was 2006, or it was in the Monterey area. That's probably the biggest case, but there's been a lot of other stuff in northern Mexico in particular. So yeah, so we get cases reported worldwide. Dagnammit, in New York State, there's a cryptid that is called the Kinderhook Blob. Is it still there to this day? I have heard of that. I don't know. I haven't received any updates or any recent sightings of whatever this thing was. I in particular, I can't even think of what it could have been. But you know, if anybody has any information or any updates on it, I'd definitely like to hear about it. Anything else, folks? Okay, well, now if you had an encounter with anything, seriously, email me at lonstrickler@famsmonsters.com with date, location, and your detailed observation or experience. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Hope I have the camera fixed by next week. I don't know what happened. And share this with anyone who drives lonely roads or watches the sky, especially at night. Newsletter sign up is also at famsmonsters.com. You can go there and you can sign up for the newsletter, which we're working on now. And we've got a system there where you can actually put in a report and it'll come right to me. Or my phone number's there where you can call me. We got a few other bells and whistles that we have planned to put in to the website, and we're continuously working on it. So anyway, I want to thank you all for coming, and until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and keep looking up. Good night and have a great weekend.